everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's out getting a turkey at the moment, and this is Smokeysteveandmarc. Welcome back, and happy Sunday. It is Thanksgiving week here, and I would be very delighted to share with you a few thoughts I have regarding foodie beauty and gratitude. So this week we will not be live. This week we'll be not doing a traditional recap video. Two things I was reflecting on, and we're going to share some thoughts again in the season of giving. So the first thought I had. I've been watching Foodie Beauty for about 5 to 6 years. I got some alerts come up in my feed and say, here's what you were doing 6 years ago. And I was talking about Foodie Beauty. Now, we'll leave aside what that says about me and my own ambitions. And I'll talk about the content that she had posted for that long period of time. Very little is different. There's very little that's different. She's dressed as someone of another faith, and she wasn't dressed before. She's moved, but everywhere she's gone, she's brought Chantal with her. And so what that means is that whether she's lived in Cornwall or Ottawa or Kuwait or intermittently in Thailand or wherever she's always been manipulative, obese, petty, and vindictive. So I'm sure she's plenty of other things, but she makes the content, not me. So if I can't find it and I don't see it, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not there. Looking at this week's thumbnails, I was like, okay, let me just take a look. I bet I can guess what happened this week. Let's see. I'm sure you can too after so many cycles. You know, I hear people coming in now and saying I came in around the Cuba age. I'm like, oh, I feel old. But suffice it to say, after having seen her this many years, it's all cycles. Sometimes they change for a little bit. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes a new person will come in and change the tone of her character because she has no first person self. She's whoever this person needs her to be likable. So for someone who says she doesn't give an F when anyone thinks, she's crippled with fears of what people think of her. I get that. I relate to that. I understand that. But at the same time, you know, in the last 6 years, I've grown up a little bit. And I imagine you have too. She's moved and converted. On the other side of things, she left an apartment, completely probably unpaid for, left her closest friend high and dry, married a guy she knew for 2 weeks because that was the best offer she could find. A guy she barely knew for 2 weeks that she was texting with in broken English, and she moved there because that's the best she could do. Not he moved here. Let's make sure we're all on the same page of where her decisions have taken her, whose money has funded them, who's made most of the transportation accommodations, and who probably will tell you they give the most and ask for almost nothing in return. Well, that's our fair lady Foodie Beauty. So, not much is different, guys, in the last 6 years. You really haven't seen a thing. The last 6 Thanksgiving, she's been ungrateful, and it's Canadian Thanksgiving for her, so it's usually cringe with the parents. Her last Thanksgiving I watched with her family was when she broke out the abaya for the first time, and the tagline on the video was, "I'm all in," as though it's a game. So, we're gonna leave that there. We'll check in with her again next week to see what kind of comes up, but considering in the last week and a half she hasn't had a video with like over 10,000 views, either a video or a live, and some have been shorter and some have been longer, whatever, Foodie. Don't ever change. There's plenty of us that could still use a little part-time income, so, or full-time depending on your gigs. So having shared those thoughts and reminiscing, I am grateful I'm not where I was 6 years ago. I wish she was not either. But there was a couple things I thought down in terms of gratitude, and this is not to point out all the flaws in her life, but when you see someone who has less than you, and you see someone less fortunate, it makes you grateful for the things you have. So, considering Chantal less fortunate in this circumstance, I'm grateful to have family and friends. It's a very nice thing. I didn't really think twice about it when I was younger, and then when you kind of, if you've ever been distanced from your family for a while, I was during addiction, you kind of feel disconnected in a sort of way, and then coming back as an adult, it feels more important again. Mom and Dad are coming here. We're hosting our first Thanksgiving, so that'll be fun to do this week. So, and they're all alive and well and healthy enough to come, so that's a good thing. We can make food, and it's not triggering, so we're gonna have a big turkey. I'm sure Mark's getting a 20-pound turkey, which we'll eat and eat and eat and give away and eat. And we'll have some people come over, and it'll be a cozy time, and I don't have to be on my phone to have someone care what's going on with me or be interested in my day. You know, we have real people in our lives that are our day-to-day through employment, through friendships, through social commitments, through friends from college and childhood and all that kind of stuff. And I've been lucky to not have burned so many bridges, even though I went through a big bridge burning. I'm still sweeping up piles of broken relationships from my 20s because of the behaviors I did then. Chantal doesn't clean up her behaviors. She ditches her friends and then trashes them publicly. And if she has your personal information, be afraid. Who doesn't want a friend like that? Now, anyone who would forgive a friend like that and go back to them, you reap what you sow. Shame on, fool them once, shame on you. So, I don't know. Having some gratitude for doing some meaningful work. Work means different stuff to different people. For some people, it's just the paycheck and life happens after work. And I was like that for a lot of years, and there's nothing wrong with it. Part of what I do for work is stuff I'm good at, so it's nice to be compensated for that. Doing the YouTube stuff as a side gig, and one day, of course, the main gig would be to just do YouTube, but as a side gig to get to use some of the education I had from college, and as a chance to just get used to talking to people and talking in front of audiences. During YouTube is when I got the most confidence to do all the stuff that we had to do during COVID, as far as giving Zooms and meetings and presentations, and I got used to it by talking to you guys. So loosened up. So YouTube's been kind of a crossover bit of activity that's gone into my personal and professional life. I like my job. Chantal does not like her job. You can tell she doesn't like her job because she comes on every day and feels obligated to have to show up to be paid. She doesn't understand. She's not salaried. She makes what she puts out there. And so sometimes she'll go the thoughtful route and do a well-edited video and she gets a decent response. And another time she'll take some sort of cheap bullshit, like her husband shitting on a crucifix or something like that. And that becomes shock content. And it's all the same for her. It's all pennies. It's all dollars. It's all money. It doesn't really matter why she's getting it as long as she's getting it. She's thoroughly convinced herself that everyone's an asshole in the world but her.
Welcome to the SSAM News Desk, where we have breaking international news just for you. A local tourist sweated her way through her abaya and fell from the Ferris wheel she was riding in Bangkok. Now, oddly enough, she sustained no injuries, having bounced upon impact. However, she did claim that she was very, very dizzy. Her last words before being transported to the local hospital was, "Where's your man?"
Gratitude for some perspective. I don't have the perspective that everyone in the world is an asshole except for me, or that I have a small, tight circle. Peoples is peoples is peoples. There's nice peoples, there's rotten peoples. There's, friendly peoples, there's unfriendly peoples. So it goes. She is so cutthroat and with her relationships that she can't make new friends. 2 years in a new place, she hasn't made a friend. She had that one person from the MLM scam or whatever. And that was it that she's had since she's been in Kuwait. Prior to that, she lived with her one friend. And but for paying his rent, do you think he would have stayed there? She doesn't want to find out if people will say no. So she backs up her offers with money, transportation, promises of X, Y, and Z favors, fill in the blank. Especially if it's in terms of winning a man's romantic interest. Pete's was kind of whatever. He was there, take it or leave it. And she, on the other hand, was very easy to cut people off and find new ones. She found herself a new toy and within 2 weeks moved. So, I don't know. I would say, all's well that ends well if it was a good decision of hers. We got married around the same time. 2 years later, Mark and I have made a few major purchases. We had to buy a car or two since. We're hosting our first Thanksgiving in our house. We have a place we call our own. We rent. Home ownership is not super important to me, but if the money was available, it would be probably the first thing I'd put together to have some property, something of mine that they can't take away from me. She has no interest in any of those kind of goals of long term. And it's okay to have more of a whimsical traveling lifestyle. Prior to meeting Mark, he lived that way in the States. He'd live somewhere for a while, work for a few months, travel, work a little bit here. It's a way of living. It's one of the things I liked about him was that he was so independent. But she's not independent. She went abroad and has barely, I don't think she's done 10,000 steps since she got there. She just sits around and plays on her phone all day. And if that's what makes her happy, I guess that's okay. But I think people would look at it, what she would call jealousy is people saying, you have all these resources, and you could do one of the most simple things in the world that everyone does, eat. and show up and talk and make money. And I think people think I would be nicer if it was me. I would be more generous if it was me. I would travel further. I would take better care of my physical health so I can go see the world, not just watch it on TikTok. I think other people would look at her advantages and say she's throwing them away and that she's, in fact, ungrateful for the life she has, which is honestly, as sad as it is, in its own way, it's a little bit charmed. She doesn't have to do anything. She has nowhere to be, nothing to do. She could take up a new language. She could take a pottery class. She could travel. She could do all sorts of stuff. She doesn't. She doesn't want to. She's lazy and unambitious. So in her mind, she's succeeded. Now that she has a place where she can sit, and there's a man that she can point to and say, he mine, and he doesn't say anything nasty back, at least not till this whole transition of paperwork and everything goes through and he can get out of there. And, she's going to go on with her life, and I think in 5 or 6 years we'll see her in the same place. I would like to think in 5 or 6 years we'll be a little further along in life. I don't know where, maybe professionally, maybe we'll move, you never know, maybe have a career change. What I'm doing now was a career change from what I did in my 20s. Let's see what the 40s and 50s brings. So grateful for having a little bit of hope at this time too. There's ideas, there's things I still want to try, there's plans, there's places I want to travel with my husband, there's places I want to travel by myself, there's places I want to visit, to go eat, to go look at stuff, to go travel, to go out for walks, beaches, mountains, anything like that. And presently, being able to be mobile enough to do it. Now, mobility is something I'm grateful for because I don't do as much as I should to maintain it. I walk to work, I try to watch what I eat. I'm overweight. I'm not morbidly obese, but I'm overweight. And to try to go easy on my joints, because once I hit 40, they started cracking a little bit. She has every health problem under the sun and can't get out of the house. She has every single health problem under the sun that prevents her from doing anything that would look like fun to somebody else. So I'm grateful that I'm in relatively good health. I'm grateful that Mark is in shaky health, but is mobile, is very mobile, because, yeah, it seems like it's unfair. Some of us get hit with pain and some of us don't, but there's ways to deal with it, and there's attitudes about going about it. And Mark's been remarkable of just chugging along and taking care of himself, going to his appointments, and just keeping up with what to do, rather than throw the towel in and say, we're going to just need the whole world to accommodate me because I'm obviously too lazy and privileged to have to lift a finger to try to change it all on my own. So, gratitude for change. I'm so sure most of us aren't the same person we were 20 years ago, and if you are, I hope it was a good person 20 years ago because you haven't changed. And I think in 5 or 6 years, she won't be in Kuwait. I don't think she'll be married, but God knows what. God knows where she'll land, assuming she's still out and about in the world making plans and she's not elsewhere. We'll just say elsewhere. I don't want to be gross or grim, but you know what I mean. And hopefully 5 or 6 years Thanksgiving, we'll be checking in at least that often. And if it's the full gig and Mark and I have hit it big on YouTube, then, we'll check in from space. We might be in Mars by then. You never know. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you for listening to my thoughts over the past years and some reflections on gratitude as we go into the week of American Thanksgiving. So thank you all for joining me, and thank you all for watching. Mark thanks you as well. Please do subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll get alerts when we have new videos and go live. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and all our contact info is below. Thank you, and we'll catch up with you very soon. Probably Mark will catch up with you next for a Monday event. It is Sunday, so keep your eyes open. We'll have a new video up soon, and take care of yourselves. Bye! Mwah. Say bye, Bandit! He got his video of the week. He's done. Bye.
Whoa!